name is Apostle Godwin Nwosu. I am the president of Hutasia International. And the Hutasia International is an apostolic movement, an organization, apostolic organization raised up for the maturing of the saints through the preaching of the message of sonship. And so even the name Hutasia is the Greek word for sonship. So God has specially given me a revelation of sonship. And one of the cardinal revelations of sonship is about the Lord's victory over death. The book of Timothy chapter 2, it says that Jesus has abolished death and brought life and immortality to light through the gospel. And so, in this documentary, I came across a publication by the CNN in which January this year they published a finding about the possibility now of the science, or let me say technology, of age reversal. Old mice grow young again in study. These mice are twins, how to slow aging and even reverse it. Fascinating picture shows anti-aging drugs really do work. This breakthrough discovery is what they call the information theory of aging. So presently, aging can be explained from the prism of information. This is a wonderful breakthrough. And when I was going through that write-up, what struck me and provoked me to make this video is that the conclusion and the findings in that scientific, discovery agrees with my spiritual findings many years ago. During one of my researches and during one of my investigations, I discovered some startling facts about the mystery of death. I came to certain conclusions about death, and the fundamental truth I discovered is that Jesus has defeated death and brought life and made life accessible for us. That was the first conclusion I drew from that finding. And then as in 2020, I went further in my research, in my spiritual finding about the subject of death. I made a conclusion which has been scientifically proven by that write-up which I saw. And this is what, out of excitement, I felt propelled to bring you a documentary of my spiritual findings since 2017 through 2020 and then to the present. I'm so excited that science has been able to prove my spiritual findings. So in September 2017, I published this article, Our Right to Immortality. So there is no dichotomy between science and spirituality. Chapter 1, that the invisible things of God from the creation are clearly seen. The invisible things of God are clearly seen, and they can be understood by the things that are made. It means that nature contains mysteries of the Godhead. So science and spirituality are simply the different sides of the same coin. So I'm excited that science has been able to prove my spiritual findings right. And this is it. Man has been given the privilege to overcome death because Jesus, by his resurrection, has redeemed us from death. Physical. I'm not just talking about spiritual death, physical death. So it is now going to take, you know, revelation to access and appropriate this victory. And this is the essence of this documentary. I just want to show you the how far I have come from the inception of the study till this present time, that science has proven me right. Remember, I am Apostle Godwin. I am the apostle of the message of sonship. And I bring you a scientific proof of my spiritual finding that Jesus has abolished death and brought life and immortality to light through the gospel. All it takes is revelation, knowledge, understanding for humanity to appropriate this victory over physical death that Jesus has made available. It is there. And thank God that knowledge is increasing. Soon, humanity will overcome physical death because Jesus has made it available. Okay, so I present to you my findings on this subject. Happy viewing. To Google so that we can see the article that I am talking about. So we go to Google, and then I want you to type CNN on age reversal. For instance, just CNN on age reversal, you see? And then these are some of the articles you're going to see. So I want to show you that, and if you see, this was published 7 days ago. Old mice grow young again in study. And now it is asking, can people do the same? Okay, let us find out what their discovery is. You see, I was amazed. I was amazed that my spiritual finding, a discovery I made in the privacy of my study, has now been scientifically proven. Okay, so old mice grow young again in study. So this article was written by Sandy Lamuth, CNN, on Friday, that's a week today, Friday, the 13th of 2023. Okay, I want to show you the particular information that, collaborates my spiritual discovery, that establishes the agreement and synchrony, symmetry between their discovery and my spiritual finding. Okay, let us go right now. Let us go. Okay, now I want to read it for you. It says, in Boston labs, old blind mice have regained their sight, developed smarter, younger brains, and built healthier muscle and kidney tissue. On the flip side, young mice have prematurely aged with devastating results to nearly every tissue in their bodies. As you can see, and look at the pictures there, you see that one of the mice is old and the other one is looking young. Okay, these were technologically engineered. Okay, so we continue with the article. It says the experiments show aging is a reversible process. Aging is actually a reversible process, capable of being driven forwards and backwards at will. This is a mind-boggling discovery that we can actually engineer aging backward or forward. So this was said as the person who made this statement is the anti-aging expert David Sinclair, a professor of genetics in Blavatnik Institute at Harvard Medical School and co-director of the Paul F. Glenn Center for Biology of Aging Research. It says, as we continue to read, our bodies hold a backup copy of our youth that can be triggered to regenerate, said Sinclair. the senior author of a new paper showcasing the work of his lab and international scientists. Okay, so he continues. The combined experiments published for the first time Thursday in the journal Cell challenge the scientific belief that believe aging is the result of genetic mutations that undermine our DNA, creating a junkyard of damaged cellular tissue that can lead to deterioration, disease, and death. So, before now, the prevalent scientific explanation for aging is that it is the result of genetic mutations, genetic mutations that undermine our DNA, creating a junkyard of damaged cellular tissue that leads to deterioration, disease, and death. So it has been the popular and prevalent theory which has held sway all this time that aging results from mutations in our DNA. You know that damage our tissues. So they have tried to explain aging as the composition of damaged tissues in our DNA. But now there is a new explanation for aging. And this is what this article is trying to explain, as has been proven by experiment. Okay, it says now it's not junkyard, it's not damage that causes us to get old, said Sinclair. This is the latest information about aging. It is not a damage, it is not junkyard that causes us to get old. So this is what Sinclair said, who described the work last year at Life Itself, a health and wellness event presented in partnership with CNN. Now look at what he's saying. We believe it is a loss. Look at it. We believe, I'm going to highlight this place so that you can actually see what I'm trying to do. He says, we believe it is a loss. It is a loss of information. Pay attention to that. That is what actually struck me. He says, we believe it is a loss of information. A loss of information. A loss in the cell's ability to read its original DNA, so it forgets how to function. In much the same way an old computer may develop corrupted software. I call it the information theory of aging. Wow. This was what I read, and my head popped open. I said, wow. He says, aging can now be explained from an information theory. He says, aging is the loss of information, meaning that aging, and it is from aging to death. So he explains it as the result of what? The result of information loss. And this is where I'm going to stop. And now I'm going to take you to my personal study in the scriptures, in which I arrived at the same conclusion that what is called death, is a state of consciousness. That it is all about information, knowledge. That itself is information controlled. Wow. You are going to be amazed. This is science. And now I'm going to show you my personal discovery as I was studying the subject of that. And I came to this same discovery. Okay, just you can see exactly how old this writing note is. This is the note I used in this study. So you can see it says here, insights from the scriptures. This study was begun on the 23rd of March 2020. So that was when I made this study. And, I began from Genesis, and then I continued to make my research until I came to a particular um, area. And what I titled actually this study is the mystery. of Adam's nakedness. The mystery of Adam's nakedness. And you can see the Bible portion that furnished me the text, or from where the study was centered. Okay, so Genesis chapter 3, 7 to 21. Okay, I'll just share with you. You can read that up on your own. I'll just share with you what my discoveries were. I'll just read it one by one. Now it says, beyond the literal meaning of this word naked as nude, not covered with clothes, there's a spiritual mystery surrounding it. So you remember I called it the mystery of Adam's nakedness. So what I'm trying to say here is that beyond the literal meaning of the word naked, as just being nude, not wearing clothes, not being covered, that there is a mystery behind it. It is the mystery of mortality. That's the mystery of death. And now I begin to show my discoveries. Number one, remember that after God created Adam and Eve, they were both naked and we are not ashamed. That's in verse 25. They were not ashamed because they were not aware of their nakedness. Okay? And I capitalized aware of their nakedness. Okay, then number two, when the devil caused them to eat the fruit of knowledge, their eyes were opened and they knew that they were naked. So you see again, I capitalized, they knew that they were naked. Okay? What happened? The fruit of knowledge gave them knowledge of their nakedness. So when they ate that fruit, it gave them a knowledge, and that knowledge it gave them, it was knowledge of their nakedness. They became aware that they were naked. So what that fruit gave them was knowledge of nakedness. Remember, we are looking at the mystery of nakedness. Okay, so it gave them the consciousness of their nakedness. It gave them a consciousness. Now, without this fruit of knowledge, they won't be nakedness conscious. I hope you agree with me. Without that fruit they ate, they wouldn't have been nakedness conscious. They wouldn't have known that they were naked. Okay, that's understandable. To understand what this nakedness is all about, let's see what God asked Adam when he said he was naked and hid himself. God immediately went to that tree of knowledge. One, the first question was, who told you that you were naked? You see that? You weren't supposed to be aware of it. You understand? So when God asked Adam, who told you that you were naked? Meaning, Adam, you were not supposed to be aware that you were naked. You were not supposed to have that consciousness of nakedness. You were not supposed to have that consciousness. Now, the next place God was to find the answer was in the tree. Only that tree could give you that knowledge, this nakedness consciousness. So you have eaten it. This prompted the next question. 2. Have you eaten of the tree whereof I commanded you not to eat? You see the progression. Who told you you are naked? Oh, have you eaten the fruit I told you not to eat? Meaning, for you to know that you are naked now means you have eaten that tree, and that tree has given you the consciousness of your nakedness. So the tree of the knowledge of good and evil was a tree capable of giving someone a certain knowledge. And that knowledge is what the Bible calls nakedness consciousness or death. Okay, I hope you're following me. Number 3, to understand nakedness, let's see the original thing God told Adam would happen if he ate that tree. Okay, I'm just sharing with you my study. Genesis 2:17. In the day thou eatest thereof, thou shalt surely die. You see? In the day you eat that tree, you shall surely do what? Die. So, the result of eating that tree is death. That would happen to Adam. He would experience death. Now, Adam has eaten. What result did he get? What experience did he receive? Knowledge of his nakedness. When Adam ate, he didn't drop down, boom, to say, oh, he's dead. When he ate, he received knowledge of nakedness. This means that the state of consciousness, this knowledge of his nakedness, as a result of that eating, is actually what God meant by death. We continue. You shall die actually means you will become nakedness conscious. I hope you're following me. If God said to him, the day you eat of it, you shall surely die, and then he eats, and what happens? He becomes conscious of his nakedness. It means that that consciousness of nakedness is actually death. Don't do this. If you do this, look at what will happen. And I just did it, and look at what happened. That thing that happened is what you told me would happen. So death is that knowledge he received, that knowledge of his nakedness. Are you following me? We are talking about the mystery of death. This means that death is a consciousness which came from knowledge. This is exactly what that particular article in CNN is saying. That he is trying to explain aging as from the information theory. And here from my spiritual study, I arrive at the conclusion that death is a consciousness. It is knowledge. So from here, spiritually, I'm actually trying to explain the mystery of death from an information knowledge theory. You see the synchrony. I'm actually explaining death from the prism of knowledge and information. And science has collaborated it. Okay. What that tree contained was knowledge. And when that knowledge came into man, it made him conscious of something called nakedness. It made him conscious of something called what? Nakedness. To fully understand what this nakedness means, we go to the New Testament for explanation. 2 Corinthians chapter 5, 1-4. Paul is talking about nakedness and clothing here. Let's see what he had to say. 1. Paul calls clothing our house which is from heaven. Verse 2. So here he is referring to our bodies as clothes. 2. He says this clothing will cover our nakedness. That's in verse 3. Number 3. He says when we are clothed upon with the house from heaven, mortality will be swallowed up of life. Okay? So keep going. This tells us that nakedness is mortality. Nakedness is death. Mortality. Clothing is immortality. So to be naked means to be mortal, liable to death. So when God says you will die or you become naked, and he ate the tree and he... Okay, so now if we go back to Genesis, we can understand what happened. Number 1, God told Adam at Genesis 2:17, don't eat the knowledge that tree contains. It will give you a sense of nakedness or mortality. Nakedness is simply mortality. That knowledge will give you mortality or death. It will give you the consciousness of death and dying. So the tree will give you a consciousness of death and dying. Now we come here. that tree will give you a knowledge. The knowledge of nakedness, that is mortality, death, dying. Now, discovery. Look at my discovery. You see the discovery? This means that death is simply a knowledge acquired, a consciousness. You see my conclusion? I called it discovery, personal discovery. I never read it up in any book. This means that death is simply a knowledge acquired, a consciousness. And this is what has been scientifically proven.